Picture this. You're standing at your mailbox, hands trembling as you hold what could be the most important letter of your life. Inside that envelope isn't just a number. It's the verdict on whether you'll spend your golden years in dignity or desperation. 7 out of 10 Americans today will face that moment of truth, discovering their retirement dreams have crumbled into financial nightmares. But what if I told you there's a way to rewrite that story entirely? Today, I'm going to share with you 7 life-changing principles that transformed an ordinary person into someone who never had to fear opening that envelope again. These aren't just theories from dusty textbooks. They're battle-tested strategies that work whether you're 25 or 75, whether you're starting with thousands or starting with nothing. But here's what makes this different. By the end of this video, you won't just understand these principles. You'll have a personalized action plan that you can start implementing today. So grab a pen, because we're about to turn your financial anxiety into unshakable confidence. Let me start with a question that will change everything. When you look at your bank account, do you feel like the CEO of your financial empire? Or do you feel like a passenger on a runaway train? I used to be that passenger. Picture a young person, full of hope, working 40 hours a week for 40 years, believing that somehow 40% of never enough would magically become financial freedom. Sound familiar? That was my reality until one conversation changed everything. I'll never forget sitting across from my mentor, feeling embarrassed as he examined my financial chaos. He asked me one simple question. Have you ever managed to keep even 10 cents from every dollar you've earned? My answer was a humbling no. That's when he smiled and said something that became the foundation of everything. That's exactly where we begin. You see, most people think financial success is about how much money flows through their hands. But that's like thinking fitness is about how much food you eat rather than how you use it. The real secret isn't in the earning, it's in the managing. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can hand someone $1 million today, and if they don't understand these principles, they'll be broke within 5 years. Meanwhile, someone earning a modest income who masters these concepts can build generational wealth. The difference isn't luck, inheritance, or even intelligence. It's understanding that money is either your obedient servant or your demanding master. Think about this. Every single day, you make dozens of financial decisions. Where to eat lunch, whether to buy that coffee, which subscription to keep, how much to save. Each decision is like casting a vote for the kind of financial future you want. The question is, are you voting for freedom or are you voting for stress? The 7 strategies I'm about to share aren't just about money. They're about reclaiming control over your life. They're about sleeping peacefully instead of lying awake worrying about bills. They're about making choices based on what you want to do, not what you can afford to do. One gentleman once told me he was 60 and felt it was too late to start. I asked him, when's the best time to plant a tree? He said, 20 years ago. I replied, and when's the second best time? His face lit up as he realized, today. That's what we're doing today, planting your financial tree. And every strategy we explore is a root that will grow stronger with time, eventually creating the shade of security you've been longing for. So let's begin with the foundation that changes everything. The first principle that revolutionized my relationship with money was learning to live deliberately on 70% of my income. Not 90%, not even 80%, 70%. When I first heard this, I thought it was impossible. I was barely making ends meet as it was. But here's what my mentor taught me. If you can't manage your money when you have little, you'll never manage it when you have much. It's not a math problem, it's a discipline problem. The person who spends every dollar of a $30,000 salary will spend every dollar of a $300,000 salary. This principle forced me to make a crucial distinction. The difference between what I wanted and what I needed, between what was urgent and what was important. Living on 70% isn't about deprivation, it's about intention. Here's how the remaining 30% transforms your life. 10% goes into your personal development fund. Books, courses, skills, anything that makes you more valuable. 10% becomes your investment capital, money that works while you sleep. And 10% goes to others through charity, because the moment you learn to give, you open the channels to receive. This isn't just budgeting, it's a complete mindset shift. You stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a builder. You stop reacting to money and start directing it. But living on less is only the beginning. The second principle is about making your saved money multiply. Most people save money the way they store winter clothes. They tuck it away and forget about it. But money that isn't growing is actually shrinking because of inflation. Your dollars today will buy less tomorrow unless you put them to work. I learned this lesson when I was struggling to pay a bill. It wasn't even a large bill, but it hit me like a wake-up call. I realized I had been treating money like a house guest instead of an employee. From that moment, I decided that every dollar I saved would have a job to do. This is where the magic of compound growth enters your life. When you consistently save and invest, you're not just putting money aside. You're hiring an army of financial workers who show up every day, even when you don't. They work weekends, they work holidays, and they never ask for a raise. The key is consistency, not perfection. Better to invest $50 every month for 20 years than to invest $5,000 once. Why? Because consistent small actions create momentum, and momentum creates results that seem impossible. But here's what most people miss. Before you can make smart investment decisions, you need to invest in the most important asset of all, yourself. The third principle changed not just my bank account, but my entire perspective. Study money like your life depends on it, because it does. In school, they teach us calculus and chemistry, but they never teach us how compound interest works or why a credit card is a financial trap. They never explain that the biggest enemy of wealth isn't poverty, it's ignorance. Here's what I discovered. Every wealthy person I've met has one thing in common. They didn't just stumble into financial success, they studied it. They understood taxes, they understood investments, they understood the difference between good debt and bad debt. You don't need to become a financial expert, but you can't afford to remain a financial victim. I made a commitment to learn one new financial concept every week. Just one. Over time, these small lessons accumulated into life-changing knowledge. Think about it this way. If you hired someone to manage $1 million business, wouldn't you want them to understand how business works? Well, over your lifetime, you'll handle hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of dollars. Shouldn't you understand how money works? The beautiful thing about financial education is that it's available to everyone. One book can change your perspective. One principle can alter your trajectory. One insight can save you years of struggle. But knowledge without application is just entertainment. Which brings us to the fourth principle that separates dreamers from achievers. Before every month begins, I sit down with my income projections and create a spending plan. Not a restrictive budget, but a strategic allocation. I tell every dollar where to go before it arrives, because if you don't direct your money, it will direct you. This habit transformed me from someone who lived paycheck to paycheck into someone who lived purpose to purpose. When you plan your money in advance, you're making financial decisions with a clear mind, not an emotional reaction. Here's the difference. Unplanned spending is driven by feelings. You're stressed, so you buy something to feel better. You're celebrating, so you spend more than intended. You're bored, so you make impulse purchases. But planned spending is driven by goals and values. Even if your income varies from month to month, you can still plan. Create different scenarios, best case, worst case, and most likely case. When you have a plan for uncertainty, uncertainty loses its power over you. The moment you start planning your money, something beautiful happens. You stop being reactive and start being proactive. You stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, does this align with my goals? But planning is just the foundation. The fifth principle is about building something that lasts. While most people focus on saving money, I learned to focus on creating assets. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket without requiring your constant presence. It could be investments, real estate, intellectual property, or even a skill that generates ongoing income. The goal isn't just to have money. It's to have money working for you while you're sleeping, vacationing, or pursuing other interests. This is how you transition from trading time for money to having money create more money. Here's what excites me about assets. They can start small and grow over time. You don't need to buy apartment buildings or stock portfolios worth millions. You can start by developing a valuable skill, creating something useful, or investing small amounts consistently. The key insight is this. Rich people acquire assets. Poor people acquire liabilities that they think are assets. A car that requires payments, insurance, and maintenance is not an asset, it's a liability. But knowledge that helps you earn more money or investments that pay dividends are true assets. At any age, you can ask yourself, what do I already possess that could become income generating? Maybe it's experience that others would pay to learn from. Maybe it's time that could be invested in developing valuable skills. The opportunities are everywhere once you start looking through the lens of asset creation. But creating assets requires monitoring their performance, which brings us to the sixth principle that keeps everything on track. If you don't track your money, you don't control your money. It's that simple. For years, I managed my finances by feeling. If I could still buy coffee, I figured I was doing okay. But feelings lie, and assumptions can be expensive. When I started recording every financial transaction, something remarkable happened. Not just with my money, but with my awareness. I began to see patterns I had never noticed. I discovered spending leaks that were draining my resources. Most importantly, I felt in control again. Tracking isn't about judgment, it's about consciousness. It's like having a mirror for your financial soul. Sometimes what you see isn't pretty, but it's always honest, and honesty is the foundation of change. Here's what tracking revealed to me. Money doesn't lie. It shows you exactly what you truly value. You might say health is important, but if you spend more on entertainment than on exercise and nutrition, your spending tells a different story. The beautiful thing about financial tracking is that it creates accountability without criticism. The numbers don't judge you. They just inform you. And information gives you the power to make better decisions going forward. But individual financial success is only part of the story. The seventh and most profound principle is about thinking beyond yourself. Instead of asking, how much can I accumulate? Start asking, what kind of legacy am I creating? Financial wisdom isn't just about your own security. It's about the example you set and the knowledge you pass on. Your financial habits speak louder than your words. The way you handle money teaches everyone around you how to think about money. Your children, your grandchildren, your friends, they're all learning from your choices, whether you realize it or not. This perspective changed everything for me. I stopped thinking about money as something to consume and started thinking about it as something to steward. I wasn't just building my own security. I was creating a foundation that others could build upon. Legacy isn't just about leaving behind bank accounts. It's about leaving behind principles, habits, and wisdom. It's about being remembered, not just for what you accumulated, but for how wisely you managed what you had. When you think in terms of legacy, every financial decision becomes more meaningful. You're not just spending or saving, you're teaching. You're not just investing, you're demonstrating. You're not just managing money, you're modeling a way of life. Now comes the most crucial part, turning these principles into personal action. Knowledge without application is just intellectual entertainment. What separates people who change their lives from people who just collect information is reflection and commitment to action. I want you to pause and honestly assess where you stand right now. Take out a piece of paper or open your phone and rate yourself from 1 to 10 in each of these areas. 1 means you're completely failing at this aspect. 10 means you're consistently succeeding. How confidently do you manage your monthly expenses? How consistently do you save part of your income automatically? How regularly do you invest in learning about money? How clearly do you track where your money goes? How detailed is your monthly financial plan? Do you have income sources beyond your job? Do you have an emergency fund? How free are you from debt? How openly do you discuss money with family? How confident are you in the financial example you're setting? Look at your scores. Which area has the lowest number? That's not your weakness. That's your greatest opportunity. Because when you strengthen your weakest link, your entire financial chain becomes stronger. Choose one area, just one, and commit to improving it this week. If it's tracking expenses, write down every purchase. If it's financial education, read for 20 minutes daily. If it's saving, set up an automatic transfer. If it's family communication, schedule one honest conversation about money. The secret is starting small but staying consistent. Small disciplines practiced daily create major breakthroughs over time. Here's what I want you to remember. This isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, planning over reacting, learning over ignoring, you're becoming the person who naturally attracts financial success. After 1 week, return to this assessment. Check if your score has improved. Notice how you feel. What became easier? Where did confidence appear? Because with each small victory, you're not just changing your bank account, you're changing your identity. And here's the beautiful truth. There's no failure in this process, only movement or pause. If you're moving forward, even in small steps, you're winning. As we reach the end of our time together, I want you to understand something profound. Success isn't an event, it's not a number, and it's certainly not an accident. Success is a lifestyle built from daily habits, guided by wisdom, and sustained by discipline. You have everything you need to transform your financial life. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, but right now. The strategies we've explored aren't just concepts. They're tools waiting to be used. Remember, you are the architect of your financial future. Your thoughts become the blueprint, your actions become the tools, and your life becomes the masterpiece. Every day offers you another opportunity to build something magnificent. The world of money doesn't have to be intimidating or mysterious. With the right knowledge, the right habits, and the right mindset, you can navigate it with confidence and create the financial future you truly deserve. Take these principles, apply them with patience and consistency, and watch as they transform not just your bank account, but your entire relationship with money and life itself. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. The journey to financial freedom starts with a single step, and you've already taken it by investing this time in yourself. Now go forward and build the financially secure, confident life that's waiting for you.